Well, thank you for staying with us. Let's jump right into the conversation. Nelly Mohale, once again, thank you for joining us. Of course, that's the head of human capital for niche consulting firm Decusatio. Nelly, relatively young yourself, but you are in the human capital space and dealing largely with graduates, where we are seeing them also falling part of that youth unemployment pool. Talk us through what are some of the structural issues that still exist in the economy that's making it hard for graduates to find employment?
Thank you so much for having me here. And as the head of human capital, I've done a lot of work with recruiting for technical roles in different fields such as renewable energy, manufacturing, financial services, and also beauty. So I've gotten to see that there are a few challenges that young people face when they are applying for jobs. Having been a young unemployed graduate at some point, I know how it feels. So one of the issues that I've noticed is lack of access to opportunities. So I've seen this when I had to do recruitment in a remote area and there wasn't any infrastructure or anything like that. So I posted a job ad on Indeed, and it took a while for me to get applications, and I couldn't have any applications to shortlist for a client. So I had an idea that
not only took a long to get those lists, but also quality applications as well.
So then I decided to, because you know how remote areas, they know each other, it's like a community as a whole. So I decided to post on community groups, and that's when I got really good candidates, and that made me think that, and made me realize that there are a lot of people that are sitting at home that are qualified, that have the necessary skills, but they don't know where to access the skills, and they don't know the relevant platforms to actually access these opportunities. And also another thing that I've seen is social mobility. You get called for an interview, great, and that's really, that's a really good thing. But then you don't have the necessary means to travel from and to the interview location, and that becomes a problem because now you end up being disqualified because you don't make it to the interview.
Yeah, and just talk us through then, because you work on both sides of, the field of working with graduates, preparing them for opportunities with the various clients that you deal with, but also talking to clients who want something very specific. How do you then navigate closing that gap where you perhaps do have a graduate that academically meets all the requirements, but perhaps needs a little bit of touching up when it comes to the skills that are required by the employer?
I think I'm a firm believer of the journey of self-development doesn't ever stop. So I think it's really important as an individual and as a graduate to upskill yourself. So it's really important to upskill yourself, and there are many free online courses that you can enroll for that can be able to help you to upskill yourself. So it's really important that even when you find someone that's the right fit for the job, that is qualified, to also upskill yourself in that sense.
How do you upskill yourself, Nelly, if you are in the rurals? Connection is not that great, especially now with load shedding, where even if you do have systems at home to keep yourself going and connected, it's not always possible to remain connected and have that internet access. What are some of just the traditional ways of keeping yourself upskilled?
I think for me, looking at internet connectivity being an issue, you could also read some books that help you, personal development books that help you to gain more confidence, that when you get your next interview invitation, to be able to stand out and to be able to believe in yourself. So I believe that books could also play a role in doing that.
And let's talk about this, the role of skills and obviously upskilling yourself with the clients that you've dealt with. I know you've worked with, in renewable energy and so on, as you've said. What are some of the skills that you are seeing are sort of the skills of the future, as we were hearing from this BRICS Future Skills Challenge, where South Africa needs to catch up to really be on par with not only the other nations that are part of BRICS, but just globally, to be able to be future thinking and upskill yourself in that way?
I think for me, what I've realized is as much as we invest also in technical skills, soft skills are also really important because you're working with people and you must be able to have that like interpersonal skills to be able to engage with people and communicate effectively. So I think also communication skills play a really significant role because we're different people, we're coming from different, backgrounds.
Yeah.
So we must be able to find common ground as much as we are different, but we can use like a universal language to be able to understand each other. And as we're getting into the artificial intelligence era, it's also important to, upskill yourself with like technological skills. So I think...
And start as early as possible.
Exactly. So
and just... as you deal with these different clients, and it's all different size businesses that you do work with, could you maybe just give insights, particularly for young people who might be watching at home, on how they connect themselves with these companies and really perhaps be proactive in looking for the opportunities, how to get in touch, how to communicate, how to really source those opportunities that are indeed, as you said, sometimes rather hidden and hard to find if you don't know your way around things. How would you suggest as sort of like the low-hanging fruits when it comes to connecting with potential employers?
So I think for me, I realized this when I started out, because it's not long like since I've entered the job market and, this field. So I've realized that it is really important to network. Networking really goes a long way. And then I've seen that for you to meet your potential employers and for you to meet, people that you could be working for in the future, it's really important to form a network in your respected field to be able to connect yourself and just make yourself be seen and make yourself to be heard. So I think networking really plays a good role.
Well, still with us in studio for that conversation around unemployment and the skills shortage in South Africa is Nelly, who is the head of human capital at Decusatio, as well as Professor Miriam Altman from Altman Advisory. She's the director there. Thank you so much for joining us. And I think let's start this round of the conversation with you, Prof. Unemployment issue obviously been with us for way more than a decade now, where it seems as if there is no turnaround. Talk us through some of the issues that really continue to drive unemployment, the structural economic issues that continue to drive unemployment, but as well as the skill shortage that we are experiencing now.
Well, the first thing to understand that unemployment hasn't been with us for a decade. It's been with us since the 1970s, just to position that.
Yeah.
That, Black African unemployment in South Africa was already over 20% by the late 1970s. So we have very deep structural issues that are ongoing, and this issue has just gotten worse. And it was getting better in the 2000s when we had a growth spurt.
Yeah.
Definitely getting better. But, post late, 2008, not only because of state capture, but also there have been two global crises, COVID, et cetera.
Those polycrisis issues that we keep hearing about.
Yeah, so we've got structural issues already, and so we've gone backwards for a whole host of reasons, actually. So we've got about, we've just bounced back to pre-COVID employment levels now. So about 16.3 million people were working in early 2020, and that's how many people are working now. But, one of the critical issues is that 5.7 million people between the age of 15 and 34 were working in 2010. And I hate to tell you, but the same number, I'm not laughing, it's not funny, the same number are working now.
Yeah.
And yet you've got labor market entry. So, just to position things. So we've got deep structural problems, and the underlying issue is, yes, there's a skills issue. Of course there's a skills issue. Apartheid left us with, a very divisive approach to, it killed an artisan class from the 1950s. But, there are many more young Black kids from disadvantaged backgrounds who are now in university, like 3 times the number of people in universities and post-school education. There are more kids, in matric well, firstly, there were hardly any before.
Yeah.
So now, a big black population of black kids who are coming through matric. And also, the majority of kids who get bachelor's passes are actually from low-income communities now. So that's a huge improvement, right? But the core issue, so definitely we have a skills problem and a skills gap. You are actually starting to see change in there, but that's not why we have the highest open unemployment rate in a country that isn't at war.
Because people have been saying it seems that goalpost is being shifted. We played earlier that BRICS Future Skills Challenge where it's saying trying to have South Africa reach that global benchmark of the technical skills and so on, and hearing from the Department of Higher Education and Training saying that the unemployment issue, it's because of the skills issue, which speaking to Nelly here, who deals with graduates, is saying that that's not quite the picture. Nelly, just adding to what Professor Altman is saying around those skills. And as you did say earlier, seeing those graduates coming from rural areas, do you see that they are actively, going after the opportunities to upskill themselves regardless of them graduating from university and from Technikon?
Yes, I think that like most, graduates, like as much as, I always say that there is an experience trap that is being that is there for graduates. And you find that graduates just look for anything that's available for them in order to gain that experience and those skills that they need in order to elevate in their career. So I do think that they are doing as much as they can as to upskill themselves and to ensure that they stand out and be competitive in the labor market.
And Prof, you have, spoken about the importance in the current climate as well for young people to stay in school if they can. Could you talk us through that rationale?
Well, the issue is that you can try to make a plan around the current situation, but the reality is that, about a third of the population that's age 15 to 24 is what's called a NEET, which is, not an education or employment or training. And in that age group, you should be doing something. You shouldn't be, hanging out. You're not building human capital. You're not working. And then you short circuit your life opportunity. You start to create a social context that can be negative. You can get into a negative spiral. You can go into depression. It can create you can go to crime. It's not good for a third of the population in that age group, to be in that situation. So if the labor market is not absorbing young people, it would not be unusual in a country like that to expand education opportunities in the meantime while you're trying to sort the economy out. It wouldn't be a strange thing to do at all. And especially that we've got a lot of dropouts, and maybe that's one of the reasons we also have that high NEET rate, that such a large proportion of kids drop out after grade 10. And they should really just be doing anything else to stay in an institution, stay in a safe place, and gain a little bit more skill.
So really a whole lot of layers to this conversation that still need to be peeled back if, South Africa is to really deal with this unemployment issue. And it seems a lot more than just the skills issue. Still so much more to discuss, but unfortunately we have run out of time. Thank you both so much for your time and just opening up this conversation around the issue of unemployment and skill shortage in the country. Indeed, a conversation that will still be unpacked as South Africa continues to struggle with those issues. But